Under the oak tree. Maxi stared at him, mouth agape. She did not know whether she should be mortified that someone had watched as she tore at her hair, indignant that the man had not made his presence known, or amazed by his audacity in reproaching her. As she opened and closed her mouth at a loss for words, the sorcerer stood up and walked toward her. "Is this a ledger?" Maxi hastily gathered up the mess of papers scattered across the table, but she was too late. Ignoring her attempts to hide the documents, Ruth picked up a few sheets and examined them. He frowned. "Just how many miscalculations are there?" "Give it back." She tried to snatch the papers from him, but he simply turned around and raised them above her reach. He groaned quietly as he examined the contents. "How much gold have you spent in the last few days?" Maxi flinched and peered up at him. Her heart sank when she saw Ruth's frightfully contorted face. His next words came as a hiss through clenched teeth. "Just how much?" "Well..." Cold sweat trickled down her back. Rifdan said not to worry about the cost, but you should at least be aware of how much you've spent. His sharp tone made her face burn. She avoided his gaze, feeling as humiliated as she had in the distant past when her tutor had chided her for stuttering. "I'm not used to handling such matters." "Then you should have asked for help." He was right. Maxi stared at her toes, feeling like an utter fool. How much of it is wrong? The ledger is a complete mess. Some items are impossibly cheap, others are ridiculously overpriced, and the calculations are all wrong. And do you see this purchase list? You've bought too many unnecessary things. The dragon campaign may have brought Sir Rifdan a massive fortune, but gold should not be spent like water. We need the gold to pay the knights and guards of Anatole, not to mention the road construction planned for next year that will connect the village to the port. Come winter, tax revenues will fall. We must not waste gold. Maxi shrank back like a turtle withdrawing into its shell. "I didn't know. I was never told. I was told to do as I wished." Ruth's shoulders slumped, and he sighed audibly as her stammering trailed off. "I'm not saying that the castle shouldn't be refurbished. There was too great a focus on the castle's fortification, and it's plain to see that the place looks more like a military base than a lord's residence. But this is excessive. If you continue to spend this lavishly, Sir Rifdan will have to battle another dragon within a few years." "That's..." Maxi had to grip the back of a chair to stop herself from falling. Her only wish in refurbishing the castle had been to please Rifdan. Realizing that he might fly into a rage instead, she felt the blood drain from her body. Close to tears, she looked up at Ruth with pleading eyes. "Please tell me what I did wrong. I'll correct my mistakes." "Let's have a look at the list of purchases first. We must cancel unnecessary orders at once. The merchant will come this afternoon. Tell me what I should cancel, and I'll do it." "Very well," he said, organizing the papers by date. Maxi clutched her skirt while he inspected the papers. 20 lirum for a slab of marble 1 cuvette long and wide. "You've written down the wrong currency. It was 20 dirham, and that's an inexpensive price." He then dipped a quill in ink for her and opened the ledger to a blank page. "Now, my lady, let us try recording the purchases again carefully, without the overpriced items this time." Maxi eyed at the quill nervously. She had been expecting Ruth to take matters into his own hands. "What if I make more mistakes?" "You'll have to keep accounts in the future. If you make a mistake, I'll help you correct it. But you should have a try first, my lady." Her mind went blank as she looked at the ledger. Unable to recall a single thing she had learned, she began to sift through the receipts in a panic. She had to write down anything she could. On a scale, it takes exactly 12 dirham to balance the weight of a lirum. That's why 12 dirham can be exchanged for a lirum. The large coin is called a soldem, and it has been in circulation since the Roman era. The smaller gold coin is called a denar, and it is from Lakazim, like the smaller silver coin. A soldem weighs as much as 12 denar, the same as the value of lirum to dirham. Why do they produce such small coins in the southern continent? Trade in the southern continent is far more developed than ours. If the coins bore too much value, small-scale trade between individuals wouldn't be possible. From that day forward, Ruth oversaw Maxi's bookkeeping. She would enter the library and silently hover over him as he slept in the corner, and he would rise, grumbling that he should never have meddled. Still, he examined the ledger meticulously and advised her on the purchases. Though his advice bordered on nagging, he was of great help, and Maxi found herself turning to him for even the most trivial problems. When Maxi told him of her plans for the garden, however, he looked concerned. The servants will be troubled if you order the removal of the tree by the pavilion. Maxi looked at him questioningly. But it's dead. It doesn't even grow leaves. Anatolians believe that nymphs inhabit trees. They're wary of uprooting trees, even dead ones, and logging is sacrilegious. If you were to order that tree's removal for aesthetic reasons, they'd be horrified. But, she said, baffled, wouldn't they understand if we told them the trees would be used for fuel? Look how hideous it is. They'd probably accept it, Ruth mused as he rubbed his chin, the corners of his eyes crinkling. But that tree is an oak tree. What's special about oak trees? Anatolians hold dear the legend of Sir Rosam Wygru, the first knight to have flown across the sky on a dragon. According to legend, that hill is where Wygru mounted his dragon before he left. Ruth pointed at the steep hill. Maxi's eyes went round. She was naturally familiar with the legend of Wygru, to whom God had granted a holy sword to end the war against darkness. The hero had united the Western realms under the banner of the Roman Empire before ascending to the heavens. He was a regular feature in every child's bedtime story, and countless bards and artists had immortalized the scene of Wygru flying into the sky on a white dragon. Maxi's eyes sparkled with wonder at the knowledge that the legendary place was right before her. Is the legend really true? Anatolians believe so, though there's no historical evidence, said Ruth. But what does that have to do with oak trees? The story goes that Wygru fell in love with the nymph of the oak tree. Anatolians believe that the nymph is still waiting for his return. Every spring festival, all the maidens go to the hills to sing songs of praise for the nymph's love. So that's why people here don't cut down oak trees. Ruth nodded. Maxi now understood. Still, she could not help thinking that the dead tree marred the appearance of the castle's main entrance. Would the servants be disgruntled if I have the tree removed? The people of Anatole revere Wygru. They will likely resent the decision. Maxi frowned as she recalled how Anatolians had cheered Rosam Wygru the day of Riften's return. What should I do? I can't just leave a dead tree here. It looks so ghastly. Ruth saw her troubled face and sighed. I'll see if I can bring it back to life. You can revive a dead tree? Human life and plant life are different. They sometimes appear dead, but they're just dormant. If we infuse the tree with mana, I cannot make guarantees, but we could at least spread the word that your ladyship has enlisted the help of a sorcerer to revive the sacred oak tree. Even if the experiment ends in failure, it will be enough to placate the servants. My lady, the new wall lamps and braziers have arrived, Rodrigo informed her as he and the servants carried wooden crates in. Would you like to see them? At Maxi's bidding, Rodrigo set the crates down and pried one open with a fireplace poker. Inside were 9 elegant wall lamps. There are 15 crates in total, my lady. Please make sure they're all in good condition. I want them placed in the Great Hall, the Banquet Hall, and the corridors. And the braziers? Please put 2 in the kitchen. The rest can go in the barracks and the guardhouse. As you wish, my lady. With winter approaching, the days were getting colder. Maxi blew into the cold air before heading toward the stables with quick, light steps. She planned to visit the stable, annex, and forge to see whether anything else needed to be purchased. While leafing through old ledgers, she had discovered that her predecessors had made annual inspections of the castle. Her focus on the construction had caused her to neglect other parts of the castle. Maxi, who had been rushing through the corridor, came to a halt. 3 young maidservants were chatting animatedly, their cheeks flushed. Maxi recognized them as the new hires who had come at Adoran's recommendation. "I bet the Lord will be surprised when he returns." "He most definitely will. I heard he was furious at the state of the castle when he returned from the campaign." The maidservant's words made Maxi's heart flutter in anticipation. Would he really be pleased by the changes? Or would he perhaps think them too extravagant? But she instantly cast off her worries. Ruth had said this much was acceptable, after all. Though he did look a little bothered. Shaking off her anxiety, she headed downstairs to oversee preparations for the winter. In Riften's absence, it fell to her to ensure that there were sufficient reserves of firewood and food in the castle, feed and water for the horses, and warm clothing for the servants and guards. Maxi took the path that led around the garden to reach the stables, which were located at the southern end of the castle grounds. The stable workers dropped the fodder that they had been transporting and hurriedly took off their hats, surprised by her presence. "My lady, what brings you here? Were there no maidservants to accompany you?" It was Keenal Ospin, the stable master she had been introduced to on her first day. Maxi took a deep breath and tried to speak calmly. They had their own duties to attend to. "I came to see if there is anything you need for the winter." Oh, thank you, my lady. I was about to go meet Rodrigo for that very purpose." Keenal's face brightened. He swung open the stable door. Grimacing slightly at the stench, Maxi leaned forward without stepping inside, where 20 warhorses were snorting and chomping on hay. Keenal pointed to the end of the room, where one stall appeared to be collapsing. "We'll need new partitions, but our tools are old, and we don't have enough wood. Is there anything else?" "We'll also need more hay to last us the winter, my lady." "Very well, I'll put in an order." "Bless you, my lady. Thank you kindly." The old man grinned. Maxi smiled in response, letting out a breath of relief inside. Not long ago, the presence of other people had been enough to make her tremble in fear, but she could now look into their eyes and speak with composure. Though her tongue still refused to move as she willed, her stutter had diminished, as she had far more opportunities to speak here than at Croiso Castle. Proud of her progress, Maxi left the stables and walked into the spacious garden. The high walls cast chilly shadows. She wrapped her shawl around her shoulders more tightly. The breeze carried the scent of grass. Loose strands of her hair danced in the wind, tickling her. She absent-mindedly brushed them away, but stopped when she recalled Riften likening her voluminous hair to cotton clouds. When she looked up, she saw the mountains that Riften had likely traversed to reach the capital. He should have arrived in Drakium by now. She pictured the royal capital alive with festivities, and Riften dressed in silver armor, standing tall and gallant before the nobles like a hero out of a legend. No one would dare look down on his humble background anymore. Even the noble women who had once shunned him would fall for him. Maxi felt her mood plummet. Her stomach turned as she imagined Riften surrounded by refined, brilliantly dressed noble ladies in the ballroom of the royal palace. And basking in their admiring gaze, Riften would begin to regret marrying her. He would realize his mistake in not divorcing her. "What are you doing here all alone, my lady?" The voice snapped Maxi out of her unpleasant reverie. She turned around to see 2 youths in black tunics looking at her with puzzled expressions. Recognizing them as 2 of the squires she had seen at the banquet, she straightened up. The youths greeted her with their hands on their chests and bowed respectfully. "No need to be alarmed, my lady. We just wanted to make sure that you were all right." "It's all right. Thank you, oh." Unsure of what to call the young squire, Maxi shifted her eyes uncertainly. The handsome, silver-haired youth quickly introduced himself. "Please pardon my late introduction, my lady. I am Elysian Rovar, and I will be knighted next year." The tall youth who had been standing awkwardly next to him followed suit. "Garo Levakian, my lady. I am to be knighted on the same day as my friend here. I am Maximilian Calypse." She looked at them awkwardly, feeling silly at having introduced herself when they already knew her. Elysian flashed her a reassuring smile.